The views and opinions expressed on Real Talk with Horace Sheffield are not those of WADL TV 38 or Adele Broadcasting Corporation.
Giving you real talk, real talk, real talk. Take a walk down this path through Detroit, This is real talk, real talk, real talk. Real issues straight from the heart, Giving you real talk, real talk, real talk. Take a walk down this path through Detroit, This is real talk, real talk, real talk.
Good afternoon. This is David Felton, and you're here with Real Talk with Reverend Sheffield, and we're here talking with Senator Santana. Welcome to the show, Senator Santana.
Thank you, David, and thank you for having me.
We are very, very happy to have you. We did have some conversation on the line with Reverend Sheffield a few weeks ago. You were actually traveling. We appreciate you taking out that time then, and we also appreciate you taking out that time today. So let's talk about some things here while we have you. Public safety. Was something that's high on your agenda as you come back for your, I believe this is your second term?
Yeah, so actually, I served one term in the House, and then as Morris Hood, God rest his soul, termed out of the Senate, I ran for his seat.
Okay.
And so will be my second term in the Senate, and yes, I'm looking forward to it.
All right, so some of these things I know are very close to you and dear to you as you are the People's Senator, and we really appreciate you being out representing the 3rd District, and I'm sure your constituents appreciate the work that you're doing as well. But if you want to start with any of those or anything that's on your mind, on your heart.
Yeah, let me give you a little background, because I think when people say I'm the people's senator, I definitely believe that my road to the legislature started in the community. I was just doing my career in finance, working in the mortgage industry, and found myself becoming a part of the Warrendale Community Organization as we transitioned from college to Detroit. And so at the time, there were so many people who were losing their homes and having issues with the 2008 mortgage crisis. So I found myself advocating on behalf of the people to make sure that they receive the hardest hit funds in our community, and rebuilding a community organization from dwindling down from the past president leaving to getting back to a space where there was more stability in the community. And so I always lead with that in mind as I travel that road to Lansing, that any policy decision we're making, it has to make sure that that policy will impact the people in a positive manner right back in my community in Detroit and Dearborn and Melvindale.
Well, again, we appreciate that. I'm sure you can really say that you are grassroots and are really concerned and connected there. Gerald?
Yeah, so Senator Santana, we are, as David mentioned, at the precipice of a new era in the State House and State Senate with the Democrats in control of both houses. A major spot or point of contention, political contention, has been the partisan divide on the issues around right to work bills. Will the Senate controlled and the House controlled by the Democrats repeal that legislation?
I think it's something that is on the table for discussion. And, it may not be one of the first pieces of legislation that we do take up in the legislature, but I think there are a lot of stakeholders who are looking for us to do the right thing and repeal the right to work. Obviously, it has not impacted our work environment well when it comes to people actually being in jobs and actually having their rights protected. And so I do think it's something that we in the legislature will look at, especially in an era where we do have majority control. This may be something that will, not be bipartisan in nature, but it's definitely something we are taking a look at.
And that's something that the union certainly, the Republicans certainly has railed against in their anti-union stance throughout the years. So it's my hope, and I know many union leaders hope that something will happen to, if nothing else, rescind this legislation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think as it relates to the right to work bill, I'm trying to connect these things. Education is a significant issue of concern in the state of Michigan, in Detroit especially. I don't have data to support the literacy rate, but I know it's very low in Detroit proper. as a priority in terms of the people of Detroit actually being able to find gainful employment, education is going to be key. What do you see the legislature doing as it relates to education?
Well, let me just say, education is the pinnacle of all of our successes and what we decide to do, and that is something that has to be a priority for the children in the state of Michigan. During this pandemic, we have seen where our kids have fallen behind. They're not meeting the expectations, which prior to the pandemic, there were data and studies that show that they were not meeting the marks as when it comes to reading, math, and our curriculum in the state of Michigan. And so I think there needs to be a prioritization around making sure that students can have a continuum of education beyond the school year. Some of the actual superintendents decided, I know in Dearborn, they decided during this pandemic and earlier on to make sure that kids were still in school throughout the summer, and obviously compensating teachers to accommodate that. And so I think that needs to be something that we do prioritize over the next couple of years. There's a study that just came out recently on the education level of our students, and it says that our kids will be 4 to 5 years behind. And so I think over the next couple of years, as we have this additional revenue in the state of Michigan, we need to prioritize investing in the extended school year so those kids can get back up to speed, because if not, it will impact the workforce. And we need to make sure that moving forward that we are preparing our kids for the jobs of the future. And if they're already behind, it will be hard for us to meet the expectations of the chambers and of our businesses in Michigan in order to make sure that we do have the jobs ready for our students to actually obtain those jobs in the future.
We have about a minute to go before the break, Senator. And so this third grade legislation, third grade reading legislation, could you weigh in on that and where we are with that?
Yeah, there are mixed reviews on the third grade reading law. I do believe that, obviously we do want to make sure that our kids are meeting the expectations. We're not just providing social promotions for our children. And, that was one of the votes. My husband was one of the deciding votes on that issue. But I do believe that as far as it comes to, just standardized testing to try to see where our kids are meeting the mark, that's too stressful for our children. I think that we need to get back to making sure that teachers are being invested in and making sure that they could just do their job and not all these other areas that we're asking them to take on outside of just educating the children. And so I think that moving forward, as I said before, we need to reinvest in making sure that kids have an extended school year for the next couple of years.
Great. We're going to take a break right now. You're in tune and listening and chatting with Senator Sylvia Santana, 3rd District. I'm Gerald Smith along with David Felton. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Arthur Bricker. I'd love to show you around Bricker Tunis Furs.
Here you'll find a unique selection of European designer furs, including mink, sable, chinchilla, fox, and exquisite leathers. Right now, if you spend over $2,000 on sale, you will get a choice of airfare for 2 to one of 50 destinations or a wonderful 5-day cruise. Bricker Tunis Furs, style, fashion, furs, and leather, Orchard Lake Road, just south of Maple in West Bloomfield.
Peace and love. I am Amore Shanae, owner of Amore Natural Way Natural Hair and Braiding Salon, located West Detroit at 13201 Grand River. We specialize in all braids, twists, and locking services. We offer complimentary wine and refreshments with service, and we can promise you a peaceful, positive, and professional experience. To book with us, give us a call and follow us on Instagram at Amore Natural Way Salon.
Don't miss the Bricker Tunis Furs huge holiday sale, going on all season long. Shop our unique European collection of exceptional furs and leather. Purchase a coat for $2,000 or more and we'll send you on a fabulous vacation. Choose from a romantic cruise, round-trip airline tickets, or a luxury resort. Stop in for details. Bricker Tunis Furs in West Bloomfield. Elegance at its core. Take 50 to 80% off of gorgeous, one-of-a-kind furs that you can only find at Bricker Tunis Furs.
And we're back here talking with 3rd District Senator Santana, and it's a pleasure to have you here. Before the break, we were talking about education and some of the legislation that we're considering as it relates to education. We also talked about employment as well. And I think that all ties into public safety, where there is no good education, where a person can't find, I should say quality education, where they can't find gainful employment. It may lead them to doing other things, which may lead to encounters with public safety. So let's talk about public safety in the city of Detroit. What is your perspective on defund the police, or repurposing, reallocating funds away from the police, or do we need to do more with the police, more training? How do you feel?
Well, let me get back to your first point about education. I do believe that, education is key for anyone's opportunities in life. And I think that everything that we can do as far as being a state that invests in education, should be the priority moving forward. We're trying to avoid children going through the prison pipeline. So investment on the front end will deter any type of taxpayer dollars going into MDOC on the back end, the Michigan Department of Corrections. And so I think whatever we can do to help support that will be beneficial. You look at states like Massachusetts, who are spending $21,000 per pupil, whereas in the Midwest, we're around $9,000 per pupil for our per pupil allotment. That's a drop in the bucket. And I think that we need to continue to invest, especially in our urban areas and urban communities where public safety seems to be on the decline, and we do have a crime rate that's significant. And whatever we can do to keep children in school, keep them in programs like Grow Detroit's Young Talent, which gives them exposure to opportunity, are the things that I think will matter most in the future for our job placement. When it comes to our law enforcement officers, I've always been very supportive of law enforcement in our communities. And no one in my neighborhood wants to defund the police. Actually, they want to have more police presence. And so in the city of Detroit, where we have neighborhood police officers, that has been one of the glues in our community to make sure that we have that bridge between community advocacy as well as our police protection. And so I think it's been wonderful to have NPOs present at our community meetings and present. And even when it comes to just communications, it has been very beneficial for our radio patrols, who are our secondary to making sure that public safety is a priority. Anytime where you have a city where gun violence is on the rise, people are getting shot, children, babies are being killing each other at 4 years old, and have exposure to guns. That's an issue. That's a systematic issue that we really have to try to find ways to invest more in our communities and the people who reside there. There's no reason why the crime rates should be what they are in any urban area. And I think that's around the investment process that we need to put more investment into our communities and more community policing as well.
And the NPO too is neighborhood police officer, just so everybody knows.
That's correct.
Go ahead.
So Senator Santana, where are we with respect to gun legislation?
I think obviously, we have tried, Democrats, I will say, have really pushed forward some legislation that would help to support making sure that parents are being responsible, if they are gun owners, to make sure those guns are locked up. We have had conversations around, having mental health evaluations before individuals can actually obtain a gun permit or have guns as well. But I think there has to be more conversation. We are, trying to balance between people's Second Amendment rights, as well as making sure that we're not having people who have guns who shouldn't have guns, right? So it is still a robust conversation. I think there will be some type of policy moves in this legislative cycle to try to put more protections in place. But definitely it is going to be a battle moving forward. Obviously, with not having Republican control, we probably won't get that bipartisan support, but it is something that we will be having dialogues about in this legislative cycle.
Again, and so I'm sorry, Dave, so I just want to ask as a follow-up. So do you see Senator Santana some breaking of the bread across the aisle on many of these issues, or will they be straight up and down partisan?
I think well, I believe that issues that like right to work, obviously that's something that the Republicans pushed. So obviously that would not be an issue where they will come to the table on. Obviously Matt Hall in the House has already stated that that is a no-go for him and his party. And so obviously those are issues that you're going to have a pushback from the Republican side of the legislature. When it comes to gun safety, definitely I foresee that being an issue that perhaps you may have one or two people whose districts are Democratic in nature actually side with us. But that's to be discovered through this legislative process to see where we move forward. I will tell you this, on the public safety standpoint, when it comes to making sure that our law enforcement have the investment for public safety, that is something that Democrats as well as Republicans have been able to come to the table and come to some agreements on. Also, when it comes to criminal justice reform and public safety, that's also an area where our western side of the state, our partners over there have been very open to having that dialogue, because they understand that if you don't give people the opportunity to come back to their communities and move forward in their lives and be really reformed, you're going to have them falling back into that same circumstance that they did before. So having that investment outside of the prison walls to make sure that they're successful is very pivotal in order to make sure that they don't go back and they don't commit more crimes.
Yeah,
David, we have a minute to go.
all right, we're talking with Senator Sylvia Santana, 3rd District Senator, here on Real Talk. And you can watch us every Sunday on Channel 38 at 12:30 WADL. And that's Real Talk with Reverend Sheffield. And he's not here, but we are having some robust conversation with, I'll call her our community warrior. She is definitely putting in the work and getting the results. And we look forward to talking to her about a little bit more on the other side of this break. We'll be right back.
Bricker Tunis Furs, elegant, luxurious, and offering today's modern fit of the classic fur. Bricker Tunis Furs embodies and guarantees the level of quality and uniqueness you deserve. Don't miss our huge holiday sale, going on all season long. Shop our unique European collection of exceptional furs and leather for men and women. Feels like they were made for you. Bricker Tunis Furs in West Bloomfield. Elegance at its core.
Peace and love. I am Amore Shanae, owner of Amore Natural Way Natural Hair and Braiding Salon, located West Detroit at 13201 Grand River. We specialize in all braids, twists, and locking services. We offer complimentary wine and refreshments with service, and we can promise you a peaceful, positive, and professional experience. To book with us, give us a call and follow us on Instagram at Amore Natural Way Salon.
Bricker Tunis Furs, elegant, luxurious, and offering today's modern fit of the classic fur. Bricker Tunis Furs embodies and guarantees the level of quality and uniqueness you deserve. Don't miss our huge holiday sale, going on all season long. Shop our unique European collection of exceptional furs and leather for men and women. Feels like they were made for you. Bricker Tunis Furs in West Bloomfield. Elegance at its core.
We're back. We're having a very, very robust conversation with Senator Sylvia Santana, Senator of 3rd District. And before we left, we were talking about criminal justice reform, and we were talking about advocacy, especially for Black and Brown people, and some resources that we may have out there that they may have. And I think, my boss, who is the sheriff, Raphael Washington, actually had a how can I put it? Had a small series where he had cars on how to engage with the police when you get pulled over. And I think that's great. And I think a lot of people have been talking about what to say and what not to say when you get pulled over by the police. But what gets me is, what if you do get pulled over by the police and you are arrested? What do you do at that point? What if you are charged with something? There's some allegations there. What should you say? What should you not say? And how should you go about it? And you were saying, Senator, on the break, that your office gets calls as well, looking for advocacy as it relates to some of these cases.
Yeah, absolutely. That is something that we've dealt with for the past couple of years. And so one of the things we have discussed is, how do we make sure that people have at least the facts so that they know how to navigate the justice system? And so that's something that we're looking to help support in. We can't actually counsel someone from the legislative lens, but we can provide them with some facts. And actually, to your point about what Sheriff Washington is doing, there is a piece of legislation in the Georgia legislature, which it actually require during the driver's training for individuals to actually go through the training and know how to interact with law enforcement. And I think that's something that we need to pursue in our state as well, because that will help to educate our communities. But I think also civic engagement is really important. And, you know, we've tried to do a lot of stuff around helping our leadership in the community to understand how to engage with law enforcement, as well as engage with legislators on advocacy for issues. But I think that more importantly, we have to do a better job as a state to make sure that we're educating kids on civics, making sure that they know the levels of court and how you can appeal in the court process and what that looks like. And if it doesn't work out at the state courts, you can go to the Supreme Court to appeal your cases. These are all things that are not being taught to the general public. And so I think it's something that really is lagging in our system, because most people will interface with the justice system at some point.
Those are great points that you both raised, and just want to turn the conversation to another issue, and that's healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
There are bills to address healthcare and prescription costs, including the health over profits for everyone. I guess that's the hope. Set of bills that's been introduced by now Supreme Court Justice Kyra Bolden. I believe she offered as a co-sponsor that legislation, but also deals with Senator the issue surrounding capping insurance co-pays for insulin and so much more. Where do you see that legislation going?
Well, I think, more importantly, diabetes is a significant issue across the country. And I know that from the federal level, there has been a push to make sure that co-pays are capped at $35 for our individuals who are dealing with diabetes and debilitating diseases. And so that's something that is going to go in effect here in January. And so hopefully that will be a significant impact to our communities and those individuals who do have to have insulin. It should not cost you an arm and a leg to actually afford your medication that you need on a daily basis. And so I think that this is a step in the right direction, but there is so much more that we can do as a state as well to make sure that access is there. And I think the governor has prioritized insulin reduction costs as well for our state.
David?
Yeah, and I can really say that I am diabetic, and you said it could cost an arm and a leg. It could literally cost you an arm and a leg if you don't do it.
Literally,
if you don't get your medication. So again, even as it relates to those that have diabetes, hypertension, high blood pressure, I think at Dabo we are actually doing some things along that Choose Healthy Life to ensure that the community has the information they need and actually takes charge of their health. What do you, and I understand we look to you to make legislation and to introduce affect policy. What do you recommend, or how would you encourage your constituents to try to take ownership of their own health in terms of making sure that they can, be healthy, make wise choices and things of that nature?
Absolutely. Well, it's an interesting conversation. Right before the 2020 pandemic hit, I had a leadership forum for my community leaders. And the last thing I said at that conversation was health was wealth. And then we had a pandemic. One of the things that we know is that access to care is something that is really, unfortunately, in most of our communities, difficult for people to receive. Medicaid, obviously, individuals who have Medicaid, Medicare are not prioritized when it comes to doctor's visits. Oftentimes because of the reimbursement rates, those individuals are not at the top of mind when it comes to care, even within the hospital and public health facilities, or at least in the hospitals and other providers' offices. And so I think that's something that we really have to look at, is how can we make healthcare more accessible? And I think through the state of Michigan, we really have tried to prioritize making sure that people stay out of the emergency room through getting more people access to care by having Healthy Michigan. And so we have expanded that this last couple of years, and we have actually enrolled more individuals on that plan than we anticipated overall. And so that has been very important. And so people have been able to get those wellness checks, which is also helping to keep them out of the emergency room and keeping costs low. But also one of the things that I've done as a state lawmaker is make sure that I bring the mobile units to the community. I think that's something that's really important. When we had a Hep A outbreak in Detroit and also a hepatitis C outbreak, that's where my passion for healthcare became very obvious. We educated our community, made sure that people got information in the mail. But also, I think through this pandemic that people have really started to really prioritize their health and look at the science and see how we can best help to support ourselves when it comes to our health. And so I think more people, what really needs to happen when it comes to the Black and Brown communities is that we need more people to get involved when there's studies out there and research, because oftentimes we are not in those studies. And so when healthcare is becoming more innovative, there's no data to show how it impacts our communities. And so I think that's because of stigmatisms. But I think as time moves forward, that education is going to help support the future of health in our communities.
We have less than 30 seconds. Senator, would you like to deliver some final messages to your district and the entire area?
Yes, well, thank you. And I appreciate you all allow me to come on your show and really just kind of express what I feel is the future of Michigan. And I am so grateful to be able to support District 3, and my district will be changing come January of 2023. I will be representing District 2 now, which is Detroit, Dearborn, Dearborn Heights, and Allen Park. But I will say that I will continue to work forward on issues that impact our communities, and healthcare being the top priority issue. We know that we've had many reports and studies to show that we are impacted in a negative way. And so I think now is the time to really act on those studies and those reports to make sure that Black and Brown communities and communities across Michigan, where no matter where you live, are prioritizing healthcare.
Great. Thank you for joining us, David.
Thank you for joining us. And again, you can see us every Sunday at 12:30 on Channel 38 WADL. We look forward to seeing you the same time next week. Thank you. Have a great day.
You've heard the saying, baby, it's cold outside. What better way to stay warm than in a luxurious fur from Bricker Tunis Furs? That's why we're offering a great deal in the coldest month of the year. It's our January clearance sale of 50 to 80% off of gorgeous, one-of-a-kind furs that you can only find at Bricker Tunis Furs. Purchase a coat for $2,000 and we'll send you on a fabulous vacation for two. Choose from a romantic cruise, round-trip airline tickets, or a luxury resort. And don't forget to check out our consignment rack for more fine furs up to 80% off.
Park, walk, shop, dine, and explore Livernois. Stop by this beautiful historic neighborhood located on Detroit's northwest side of the city from 6 Mile to 8 Mile. Great retail showrooms, wonderful hair salons and spas, our famous barbershops and nail studios.
Detroit, this is real talk, real issues straight from the heart, giving you real talk. Take a walk down this path through Detroit. This is real talk.